Welcome to Life Stories, where everyday moments turn into extraordinary journeys. Today, we share the inspiring transformation of Emily, a woman whose chance encounter on a plane led to a life-changing mission of hope and compassion. From misunderstanding to profound lessons in love and empathy. This story reminds us that even the smallest acts of kindness can spark miracles. So, grab a seat and get ready to be inspired by this heartwarming tale. Don't forget to subscribe to Life Stories for more incredible narratives. Let's begin today's story. The bustling chaos of Chicago O'Hare Airport was as relentless as ever. Emily Carter, dressed impeccably in her tailored navy suit and carrying a leather designer handbag, waited impatiently near gate C27. Her schedule was meticulously planned, her time too valuable to waste on yet another delayed flight. Glancing at her smartwatch, she sighed. A 30-minute delay already felt like an eternity, especially since she was on her way to an important pharmaceutical conference in New York City. Emily prided herself on being a woman of efficiency and precision. Everything in her life was carefully curated, from her wardrobe to her career as a senior sales executive at Meridian Pharmaceuticals. Yet, as she watched the crowds shuffle and the announcements echo across the terminal, a growing irritation gnawed at her. She longed for the calm and order of her first-class seat, where she could sip her espresso in peace and prepare for her presentation. When boarding finally began, Emily was among the first to step onto the plane, her ticket guaranteeing her a prime spot in the spacious first-class cabin. Settling into her window seat, she took out her tablet to review her notes. She barely noticed the man in military fatigues approaching until he stopped at her row. "Excuse me," he said, his voice polite but firm. "I believe I'm in 2B. Emily glanced up and immediately felt a flicker of annoyance. The man, tall and broad-shouldered, had an air of quiet resolve. His uniform, though neatly pressed, showed signs of wear, and he carried a plain duffel bag that contrasted starkly with her polished luggage. Suppressing an eye roll, Emily stood to let him pass. As he stowed his bag overhead, she caught a glimpse of his name tag, Miller J. She settled back into her seat, already preparing herself for the inevitable conversations that often followed when someone in uniform was present. There would be thank yous, appreciative smiles, and perhaps even a complimentary drink from the flight attendant. It was a script she had seen play out many times. When the plane began to taxi, Emily couldn't resist a remark. "I suppose you got some kind of military discount for this seat?" Her tone was casual but edged with disdain. The man turned slightly, meeting her gaze with a calm, measured expression. "No. Full fare." Her eyebrows arched skeptically. "Usually, your kind expects everything handed to them on a silver platter. Special treatment everywhere you go." A flicker of tension crossed his face, but he didn't rise to her bait. "I assure you, I'm not expecting any special treatment." Emily smirked, her irritation growing. To her, this was just another example of someone milking their uniform for sympathy and accolades. She couldn't understand why the world fawned over soldiers when so many others worked just as hard, if not harder. Without recognition, the man pulled out a photograph from his pocket, his focus shifting entirely to the image in his hands. Emily craned her neck slightly, curious despite herself. "What's that?" "Your propaganda photo op with some foreign children," she quipped, her voice laced with sarcasm. He hesitated, his fingers brushing the edges of the photo. "No. This is my daughter, Lily. She's 6. Emily rolled her eyes. "Oh, how convenient. Playing the family card now. Are we? Let me guess, you're off on some noble mission. Leaving her behind to save the world?" For a moment, he said nothing. The silence was filled with the hum of the engines and the occasional cough from another passenger. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet but steady. "Actually, I'm heading to New York for her treatment at Sloan Kettering. She has leukemia." Emily let out a dramatic sigh. "Of course. She does. And I suppose you're hoping someone overhears and starts a GoFundMe for you. This time. A woman across the aisle gasped audibly, but Emily ignored it. The man, however, remained composed. "No," he replied. "I'm just trying to get her the care she needs." His calm demeanor only fueled Emily's frustration. She wasn't used to people not pushing back. It made her remarks feel hollow, like throwing punches at an immovable wall. The flight attendant arrived with the drink cart and smiled warmly at the soldier. "Thank you for your service," she said, offering him a complimentary drink. Emily gestured toward the attendant as if to make her point. "See? Special treatment. Just like I said." The soldier declined politely. "Just water, please. And I'll pay for it." For the rest of the flight, Emily buried herself in work documents, occasionally glancing at her seatmate. He spent most of the journey looking at his phone, his brow furrowed as if reading troubling news. Once, during turbulence, she noticed the sleeve of his uniform ride up, revealing scars on his wrist. Combat injuries, she thought dismissively. When the plane landed at LaGuardia, Emily lingered, deliberately letting the soldier disembark ahead of her. She overheard him on the phone as she waited at baggage claim. "Yes. I'm here. No, the last treatment didn't work. Please. Just keep her comfortable until I get there," he said. His voice strained. "I know visiting hours are almost over. But I'm her father." Emily shook her head, still convinced it was all an act. As she stepped into a taxi bound for her luxury hotel in Manhattan, she thought little of the soldier or his story. For her, it was just another encounter in a busy life, soon to be forgotten. But life, as Emily would soon discover, had a way of turning even the smallest encounters into something extraordinary. The glow of New York City's skyline was a dazzling backdrop as Emily settled into her suite at the Ritz. After unpacking, she poured herself a glass of wine and lounged on the plush sofa, scrolling through her phone. Her mind lingered briefly on the soldier from the flight. Something about him stuck with her, though she quickly brushed it off. People like him, she thought, knew how to play their cards right, garnering sympathy wherever they went. She sipped her wine and opened her laptop to review her presentation for the pharmaceutical conference. The topic was familiar territory, the company's latest line of oncology medications. Emily was a seasoned pro at pitching products. But tonight, her focus wavered. The soldier's quiet resolve, his words about his daughter's illness, replayed in her mind. She shook her head, trying to dismiss the nagging thought. There were more pressing matters at hand, like securing new clients and cementing her reputation as Meridian's top salesperson. Just as she began typing, her phone buzzed with a notification from a local news app. She nearly ignored it but decided to take a glance. Her eyes widened as a familiar face stared back at her from the headline, "Decorated Soldier Fights to Save Daughter's Life Against All Odds." Emily froze, her wine glass tipping slightly in her hand. The article featured a picture of the man from the plane, Staff Sergeant James Miller, seated beside a hospital bed. His daughter, Lily, was impossibly tiny, her bald head and frail frame surrounded by medical equipment. Despite her condition, Lily's radiant smile lit up the photo, as if she was unaware of the tubes and monitors tethering her to life. The article described James as a Purple Heart and Bronze Star recipient, wounded in Afghanistan while saving members of his unit during an IED explosion. It detailed his refusal to take medical retirement, ensuring he could maintain military insurance to support Lily's experimental treatments. The hospital staff called Lily their warrior princess, praising her bravery through countless procedures. The piece concluded with a mention of a fundraising page set up by James's unit to help with the overwhelming costs of her care. Emily's stomach tightened. The words she'd spoken to him on the plane echoed in her head, each one sharper and more cutting in hindsight. Her remarks about handouts and special treatment now seemed cruelly ironic. She had dismissed a man who had given everything not for recognition, but for his daughter's survival. She set her glass down, her hands trembling as she clicked the link to the fundraising page. The total raised was a fraction of the goal, and the sight filled her with a mix of guilt and urgency. Her instincts as a salesperson kicked in. She thought of all the corporate connections she'd nurtured over the years, all the resources she had at her fingertips. For the first time in her career, she considered using her influence for something other than personal gain. The next morning, Emily cancelled her scheduled meetings, something she had never done before. Instead, she reached out to Meridian's charitable foundation, proposing a partnership to sponsor children like Lily who needed experimental treatments. She spent hours drafting a proposal, her professional demeanor masking the personal turmoil that had driven her to action. That afternoon, Emily made her way to Sloan Kettering. She didn't have an appointment but was determined to speak with someone involved in Lily's care. As she entered the lobby, the sterile scent of the hospital filled her senses, and the sight of families waiting anxiously in the oncology ward hit her harder than she expected. After some persistence, Emily was directed to Dr. Patel, the head of pediatric oncology. She introduced herself and explained her interest in supporting Lily's case. "I represent Meridian Pharmaceuticals," she began, "and I want to explore how our foundation can help cover the costs of her treatment." Dr. Patel raised an eyebrow, intrigued but cautious. "Ms. Carter, we're always grateful for corporate support, but these processes take time. Approvals, board meetings. Then let's streamline them." Emily interrupted. "This girl doesn't have time for red tape. Let's make it happen now." Dr. Patel regarded her for a moment before nodding. "I'll arrange for you to meet James Miller. He's with Lily upstairs." Emily's heart raced. She hadn't planned to face him so soon, but she nodded, steeling herself for the encounter. As she stepped into the elevator, she rehearsed her apology in her head, unsure if he would even want to hear it. When she reached Lily's room, the sight stopped her in her tracks. James sat in a worn chair beside his daughter's bed, still in uniform, his posture weary but his expression tender. Lily was engrossed in a storybook, her soft giggles filling the room. Despite the medical equipment surrounding her, the love between father and daughter was unmistakable. James glanced up, his eyes meeting Emily's. For a brief moment, there was no recognition. Then his gaze sharpened, and she saw the flicker of familiarity. "Ms. Carter?" he asked, his tone even but guarded. Emily took a deep breath, stepping inside. "Mr. Miller," she began, her voice trembling slightly. I owe you an apology." His brows furrowed in confusion as she continued. "I was on the flight from Chicago. I'm the woman who—" James's expression softened, cutting her off. "I recognized you," he said simply. "But you're here now. That says something." Emily swallowed hard, fighting back the wave of emotion that threatened to overwhelm her. She looked at Lily, who was now watching her curiously. "Hi, Lily," Emily said gently. "I hear you like princesses." Lily's face lit up. "Belle is my favorite," she exclaimed, clutching her book. Emily smiled, a genuine warmth she hadn't felt in years spreading through her. "Well, Lily, how would you feel about meeting Belle at a special party just for you?" Lily's eyes widened, and she turned to her father. "Daddy, is that real?" James looked at Emily, his expression unreadable. "What are you planning?" Emily met his gaze, her resolve firm. "Something magical. For her. For you. For every family fighting battles like this." And for the first time, James smiled. The next few days became a whirlwind of activity for Emily. What had begun as a simple desire to make amends transformed into a mission far larger than she had anticipated. Her days were consumed with phone calls, meetings, and planning sessions. She reached out to every contact in her network, calling in favors from corporate executives, event planners, and entertainment companies. This wasn't just about Lily anymore, it was about creating something lasting and meaningful. Emily's vision was grand, a charity gala that would raise the funds needed for Lily's treatment while spotlighting the plight of other families in similar situations. But it wouldn't be a stiff, formal affair. No, this would be magical. Inspired by the stories Lily loved. She wanted the event to feel like stepping into a fairy tale. A night where every child could forget their struggles and just be kids. The gala was set to take place at the Grand Manhattan Ballroom, a stunning venue she secured through a last-minute call to an old colleague. The theme? An enchanted evening, complete with twinkling lights, live music, and real-life princesses. Emily spared no effort, working late into the night with her team to ensure every detail was perfect. But even amidst the flurry of activity, Emily couldn't shake the memory of Lily's smile or James's quiet strength. Their story had struck a chord deep within her, awakening something she hadn't felt in years: purpose. For so long, she had been driven by ambition, focused solely on her own success. Now, for the first time, she was pouring her energy into something that truly mattered. Her efforts didn't go unnoticed. Meridian Pharmaceuticals announced it would match every dollar raised at the gala through its charitable foundation. Other companies quickly followed suit, pledging donations and services. The response was overwhelming, and within days, the event became the talk of the city. As the date approached, Emily visited Lily's room at the hospital more frequently, bringing small surprises to brighten her days. One morning, she arrived with a plush unicorn toy, its golden horn sparkling. Lily's face lit up as she hugged the toy tightly. "I'll name her Star," she declared, grinning up at Emily. "That's a perfect name," Emily replied, kneeling beside her bed. "Star will keep you company until the big party." Lily's excitement was infectious, but it also reminded Emily of the stakes. Every detail of the gala had to be flawless. It wasn't just about raising money, it was about giving families like James and Lily hope. On the evening of the gala, the Manhattan Ballroom was unrecognizable. The space had been transformed into a shimmering castle, complete with towering floral arrangements, crystal chandeliers, and a starry ceiling effect. Tables were adorned with gold accents and roses under glass domes, a nod to Lily's favorite story, Beauty and the Beast. Children from the hospital arrived dressed as princes and princesses, their faces lighting up as they entered the magical setting. The air buzzed with excitement, and for one night, the weight of illness seemed to lift. Lily made her grand entrance in a custom yellow gown, her frail frame dwarfed by the dress's layers of fabric. Yet her smile was radiant as she took in the room. James, dressed in a sharp black suit, held her hand as they walked through the crowd. He looked around in awe, his usual stoicism replaced by visible emotion. Emily stood near the stage, watching the father-daughter duo with a mix of pride and humility. She had orchestrated the evening, but seeing their joy made every effort worth it. As the night unfolded, live Disney princesses mingled with the children, performing songs and posing for pictures. Belle herself spent extra time with Lily, reading her stories and listening intently as the little girl talked about her favorite books. The event's highlight came when Emily took the stage. Dressed simply in a sleek blue gown, she stepped to the microphone and addressed the crowd. "Tonight, we come together to celebrate courage, resilience, and the power of community," she began, her voice steady. "Families like the Millers remind us that even in the face of unimaginable challenges, hope shines brightest when we stand together." She paused, her gaze settling on James and Lily. "This evening, we've raised over $500,000, with more coming in every minute. With matching contributions from Meridian and our generous sponsors, we've not only secured the funding for Lily's treatment but also created a fund to support other families in need." The room erupted in applause, and Emily felt tears sting her eyes. She glanced at James, who mouthed a silent thank you. It was a moment she would never forget. After the event, Emily found herself standing near a quiet corner of the ballroom, watching as families lingered to take photos and enjoy the magical atmosphere. James approached her, holding Lily, who had fallen asleep in his arms. "I don't know how to thank you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "You've changed our lives." Emily shook her head. "No, James. You changed mine. I didn't see it at first. But you and Lily taught me what really matters." James smiled, his eyes reflecting a depth of gratitude words couldn't capture. "You gave her hope. And hope, Ms. Carter, is everything." As Emily watched them leave, she realized that this wasn't the end of her journey, it was just the beginning. Lily's fight wasn't over. But neither was Emily's commitment to making a difference. That night, as she returned to her hotel, she opened her laptop and began drafting plans for a new initiative, a foundation dedicated to providing resources for families facing medical crises. It was a far cry from her usual sales pitches, but for the first time, she felt truly fulfilled. Sometimes, Emily thought, the smallest moments, a chance encounter on a plane, a single act of kindness, could ripple outward, changing lives in ways she could never have imagined. In the weeks following the gala, the impact of Emily's efforts began to ripple far beyond the enchanted evening. The funds raised not only covered Lily's experimental treatment but also established a permanent fund to assist other families facing similar battles. Stories of children receiving life-saving care thanks to the foundation spread quickly, transforming public perception of Emily's once ruthlessly corporate persona into that of a compassionate advocate. Emily found herself deeply immersed in the work. Every day brought new challenges. But for the first time, her professional life felt intertwined with a greater purpose. She worked closely with Dr. Patel and the hospital staff to streamline applications for assistance, ensuring no family had to endure unnecessary delays. Her sharp business acumen, once reserved for closing high-stakes deals, became a tool for navigating the labyrinth of healthcare bureaucracy. One afternoon, while reviewing applications at her office, Emily received an unexpected visit. James and Lily walked in, Lily clutching a small bouquet of flowers. "These are for you, Miss Emily," Lily said, her voice soft but cheerful. Her cheeks were rosy, and her energy had noticeably improved. Emily knelt to accept the flowers, her heart swelling with emotion. "Thank you, Princess Lily. These are beautiful." James smiled, his gratitude clear. "We just came from a checkup. Dr. Patel says Lily's response to the treatment is better than they could have hoped." "That's incredible news," Emily said, her eyes welling up. "I'm so happy for you both." Lily giggled and pointed to her shirt, which read, "Future Unicorn Wrangler. And guess what? Daddy says I can be a unicorn doctor when I grow up." Emily laughed, ruffling Lily's hair. "I think you'd be the best unicorn doctor ever." As James and Lily left, Emily felt a renewed determination to expand the foundation's reach. The joy on Lily's face reminded her of why she had embarked on this journey. But she also knew there were many more families who needed help. Over the next year, Emily worked tirelessly to grow the foundation, leveraging her connections to bring in more corporate sponsors and private donors. The initiative was rebranded as the Lily Fund, named in honor of the little girl whose story had sparked a movement. The fund's mission was simple yet profound: to ensure no child faced barriers to receiving life-saving care. James, too, became deeply involved, using his military background to advocate for veterans navigating the complexities of medical insurance. His first-hand experience gave him a unique voice, and his quiet strength resonated with families facing similar struggles. Meanwhile, Lily's health continued to improve. Her cancer went into remission, and her doctors were cautiously optimistic about her long-term prognosis. The transformation in Lily inspired hope not only in her family but also in the many supporters who had rallied behind her. A year after the gala, Emily stood at the entrance of a newly opened pediatric care center funded by the Lily Fund. The building, a cheerful space filled with natural light and colorful murals. Was designed to be more than just a medical facility, it was a sanctuary for families. A plaque at the entrance read, "Dedicated to the warrior princesses and princes who inspire us all." Lily, now 7 and sporting a crown of newly grown curls, stood beside Emily, holding a pair of oversized scissors for the ribbon-cutting ceremony. James stood proudly behind his daughter, his face reflecting a mixture of pride and gratitude. As the ribbon fell and applause erupted, Emily felt a sense of fulfillment she had never known. The journey had started with a single encounter, a moment of darkness that had led her to rediscover her own light. Later that evening, as the celebration wound down, Emily found a quiet moment to reflect. James approached her, holding a small gift box. "This is for you," he said, handing it to her. Emily opened the box to find a delicate pendant shaped like a star. "It's from Lily," James explained. "She said you're our fairy godmother. And every fairy godmother needs a star." Tears filled Emily's eyes as she clasped the pendant in her hand. "Thank you," she whispered. "For everything." "No," James said, his voice steady. "Thank you, Emily, for seeing us, for believing in us, and for giving us hope when we needed it most." As Emily looked up at the sky, the stars above seemed to shine a little brighter. She realized that the greatest transformations often began with a single spark, a moment of compassion that could ignite a chain reaction of change. And in that moment, Emily knew her journey was far from over. With Lily's star around her neck and a heart full of purpose, she was ready to keep making magic happen, one life at a time. The new pediatric care center, bustling with activity and laughter, became a beacon of hope for families in need. It was more than just a building, it was a symbol of what compassion and collaboration could achieve. Emily, James, and Lily were at the heart of this transformation, and their shared mission continued to grow in ways none of them could have imagined. One day, Emily found herself walking through the center's bright, art-filled hallways. The walls were lined with photos of children who had been helped by the Lily Fund, their smiles a testament to resilience and joy. She paused in front of one picture, a little boy named Maximum who had received the same experimental treatment as Lily. His handwritten note beneath the photo read, "Thank you for making me feel like a superhero." It was moments like these that kept Emily going. The past year had been a whirlwind of progress and challenges, but she had learned to draw strength from the lives she was helping to change. Her work had become a reflection of the person she wanted to be, and the community she wanted to help create. That afternoon, she met with James in the center's conference room. He had officially joined the Lily Fund as its community outreach director, using his unique perspective to connect with military families and underserved communities. His passion for the work was evident in every initiative he proposed. "Emily," James said, spreading out a series of charts and proposals on the table, "we've identified 3 more regions where families are struggling to access care. If we can expand our programs, we could help thousands more." Emily studied the data, her mind racing with ideas. "This is ambitious, but I think we can make it happen. Let's start by reaching out to our sponsors and seeing if we can secure additional funding." James nodded, his determination unwavering. "We've come this far. I know we can do it." Their partnership had grown into a seamless collaboration, built on mutual respect and shared purpose. Emily admired James's quiet strength and the way he approached every challenge with calm resolve. He, in turn, valued her ability to inspire action and her unwavering commitment to the cause. As the months passed, Lily became a fixture at the center, bringing smiles wherever she went. Her energy and curiosity were infectious, and she often joined Emily during meetings, offering her own unique perspective. One day, as they walked through the center together, Lily tugged on Emily's hand. "Miss Emily, do you think we could have another party, like the gala?" Emily knelt to meet Lily's gaze. "What kind of party, princess?" Lily's eyes sparkled with excitement. "A unicorn party," with glitter and rainbows and everything magical. Emily laughed. That sounds like a wonderful idea. Let's make it happen. Planning for the second gala began almost immediately. This time, the event would be themed around Lily's favorite things, and she was actively involved in every detail. She helped choose the decorations, select the menu, and even designed invitations featuring her beloved unicorns. The night of the gala arrived, and it was every bit as magical as Lily had envisioned. The ballroom shimmered with pastel hues, glittering lights, and whimsical touches. Guests were greeted by life-sized unicorn sculptures and tables adorned with rainbow centerpieces. Lily, dressed in a sparkling pink gown, was the star of the evening. She danced with her father, posed for photos with her friends, and even gave a short speech to thank everyone for their support. "Because of all of you," she said, her voice steady despite her nerves. "Kids like me get to feel happy and loved. Thank you for helping us." The crowd erupted in applause, and Emily felt a lump rise in her throat. This little girl, who had faced so much, was now an inspiration to so many. At the end of the night, as the last guests trickled out, Emily stood on the balcony overlooking the city. James joined her, his expression thoughtful. "Another successful evening," he said, his voice warm. Emily smiled, her heart full. "It's not just about the money we raised tonight. It's about showing these families that they're not alone, that there's a community here to support them." James nodded, his gaze softening. "You've created something incredible, Emily. Something that's changing lives." Emily turned to face him, her eyes shining with gratitude. "We've created it, James. I couldn't have done any of this without you and Lily." They stood in comfortable silence, the city lights twinkling below. For the first time in a long while, Emily felt a sense of peace. She had found her purpose, and she knew this was only the beginning. Together, they were building something extraordinary, one act of kindness at a time. The morning after the gala, the sun poured through Emily's apartment windows as she sipped her coffee and reflected on the whirlwind of the past year. The emails were already flooding in, thank you messages from donors, inquiries from new families, and media outlets requesting interviews about the Lily Fund's impact. But she set her phone aside, savoring the quiet moment before the day's demands took over. Her thoughts drifted to James and Lily. The night before, James had walked Lily home, carrying her in his arms after she fell asleep mid-sentence. It was a tender moment that stayed with Emily, a reminder of the kind of love that inspired everything they were working toward. Later that day, Emily arrived at the center, where a meeting with her team was scheduled. The energy in the room was palpable. Last night's success had invigorated everyone. The gala had not only surpassed their fundraising goal but had also attracted new partnerships that promised to expand their reach even further. "I've been in touch with 3 corporate sponsors who want to support year-round programming," Emily announced. "That means we can start planning mobile care units for rural areas, where families struggle to access medical facilities." Applause rippled through the room, and James leaned in with a smile. "You've created a ripple effect, Emily. This is just the beginning." That afternoon, Emily walked into Lily's classroom at the center, where the children were working on an art project. Lily, sitting cross-legged on the floor, looked up and waved. "Miss Emily, look at my unicorn." Emily crouched beside her, marveling at the glitter-covered masterpiece. "This is beautiful." "Lily, what's this on its saddle?" Lily beamed. "It's a heart. That's where the magic comes from." Emily's heart swelled. "You're absolutely right, Lily. Magic always comes from the heart." As Lily returned to her drawing, Emily noticed one of the newer children, a shy boy named Ben, sitting alone in the corner. He held a crumpled piece of paper, his brow furrowed in concentration. Emily approached him gently. "Hi, Ben. Can I see what you're working on?" He hesitated but eventually handed her the paper. It was a rough sketch of a dragon, with bold lines and fiery colors. "This is incredible." Emily said, her voice filled with admiration. "You've got quite the imagination." Ben's face lit up, and he began explaining the dragon's story, a fierce protector that watched over its friends. Emily listened intently, marveling at how quickly he opened up when given the chance. Moments like these reminded Emily why she had chosen this path. It wasn't just about raising money or building programs, it was about connecting with people, nurturing their hopes, and giving them a sense of belonging. That evening, James stopped by Emily's office, holding 2 cups of coffee. "You looked like you could use this," he said, placing one on her desk. Emily laughed, grateful for the gesture. "You always seem to know when I need a pick-me-up." James sat down, his expression thoughtful. "You've changed so much in the past year, Emily. Watching you pour your heart into this has been incredible." She met his gaze, her voice soft. "It's because of all of you. You and Lily reminded me of what truly matters." They talked long into the evening, their conversation weaving between work, life, and dreams for the future. As the clock struck midnight, Emily felt a deep sense of gratitude. She had found not only a purpose but also a community, a family, and perhaps even something more. A year later, the Lily Fund had grown into a national movement. Mobile care units were rolling out across the country, bringing medical support to the families who needed it most. The annual gala had become a celebrated tradition, each year raising more awareness and hope. And in the heart of it all was Emily, surrounded by the people who had inspired her transformation. Together, they had turned a moment of darkness into a legacy of light, proving that love, empathy, and determination could change the world one life at a time. As the sun set on the bustling community center, Emily stood outside, watching children play and families gather. The sound of laughter filled the air, a testament to how far they had come. What started as a moment of anger and misunderstanding on a plane had blossomed into a mission that changed countless lives. Emily smiled as she saw James lifting Lily into the air, her laughter echoing like music. This journey had transformed her, teaching her the power of kindness, resilience, and love. Through the ups and downs, she discovered that the greatest impact often comes from opening your heart and extending your hand to others. And so, the story of hope continues. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey. Subscribe to Life Stories to witness more tales of transformation, love, and inspiration. Together, let's celebrate the beauty of the human spirit. See you in the next story.